Tonight on Y News. At least 13 people died in Luzon and Visayas due to the onslaught of Typhoon Tisoy. Naga City declares a state of calamity. TISOY'S damage to infrastructure and agriculture in northern Samar reaches 70 million pesos. President Rodrigo Duterte threatens economic sabotage raps against water firms over onerous deals. And the Department of National Defense and Department of Energy to look into China's alleged capacity to shut down the country's power grid. Good evening. The death count after the onslaught of Typhoon Tisoy continues to rise based on data from affected regions. Meanwhile, authorities say there are enough stockpiles of relief goods to those in need of them. Harleen Delgado reports why.
The number of fatalities brought about by Typhoon Tisoy has reached 13 as of this time. According to various sources from the regional level, 5 died in Bicol, with 1 reported injured. In Mimaropa, 4 were reported dead in Oriental Mindoro and 1 in Marinduque. In Calabarzon, 2 died in Quezon Province. 1 lost his life in Ormoc City in Leyte. Most of those who died were hit by fallen trees. Some died due to drowning and heart attack. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, has yet to release an official death toll. NDRRMC spokesperson Mark Timbal says they continue to verify reports. The families of the fatalities will receive financial assistance from the government worth 20,000 pesos, while those who were injured will receive 10,000 pesos. The total cost of damages to infrastructure and agriculture has yet to be determined.
Yung assessment po sa Bicol at saka sa Samar provinces na dinaanan ng bagyo ongoing, at nakikita po natin na yung mga reports na nagkaroon ng mga pagbaha dun sa area. At ito po ay unti-unting pinapadala sa atin ng mga kasamahan natin from the ground.
According to NDRRMC, over 100,000 families or nearly 500,000 individuals are being assisted in regions 3, 5, 8, NCR, and Mimaropa. The NDRRMC once again assures there are sufficient stockpiles of family food packs and other relief items for areas in need. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
The Naga City government can now use its quick response fund for the city's recovery. Meanwhile, fish vendors in Calabanga Town, Camarines Sur complain over the sudden rise in the price of fish. Nelmarie Buhok tells us why.
Dahil nga po sa mga pagbaha, lalong-lalo na doon sa mga low-lying areas na tinatawag. Minabuti po ng Sangguniang Panglungsod, minabuti po ng inyong lingkod na magdeklara ng state of calamity.
This was the pronouncement of Naga City Mayor Nelson Legacion after witnessing the wrath of Typhoon Tisoy in the city. The Camarines Sur capital is one of the areas badly hit by this storm that caused massive flooding, toppled trees and electric posts, and damaged houses and agricultural lands. Many establishments have also shut their doors. Now under a state of calamity, the city can use its quick response fund for its and its residents' recovery. Today in the town of Canaman, we saw farmers took the opportunity to dry their palay. According to Mayor Legacion, they target to completely restore the city's power supply until Friday. Meanwhile, some fish vendors in Calabanga town complain over the sudden price hike of fish at Sabang Fish Port. Gloria Bersaban, a fish vendor, said she waited for more than 3 hours to get fish, but she got only 1 bucket of banak fish, double its usual price.
Ang mahal nga eh. Tingnan mo yung nabili namin na alas 1,000 yan. O yan lang. Noon 500, pwede na.
Joseph Belasa, a fisherman, shared that they could not venture into sea for 3 days because of Tisoy. They resumed fishing today as the town enjoyed the clearer sky.
Mahina. Kasi maano pa, daming basura. Isang area lang kami.
Local fisher folks are still recovering as their fishing boats are currently under repair after battling strong winds and waves. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Camarines Sur.
The province of Catanduanes continues to experience total blackout. This 2 days after the lashing of Typhoon Tisoy. Nina Armilio tells us why.
Has yet to be restored in the province of Catanduanes in Bicol. First Catanduanes Electric Cooperative Incorporated, or FISELCO, cut off its supply across the province 2 days ago. Residents of Virac who have generator sets have offered free charging for their neighbors.
Since meron tayong kuryente, dahil meron tayong generator, at least natutulungan natin yung mga nangangailangan na upang makontak nila yung kanilang mga mahal sa buhay sa ibang lugar.
Aside from electricity, stable cell phone signal is also a challenge days after the onslaught of Typhoon Tisoy in the province of Catanduanes. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
Northern Samar suffers 70 million pesos worth of damages to agriculture and infrastructure a day after the lashing of Typhoon Tisoy. But this amount could get bigger in a few days. Janelyn Gakit Valles tells us why.
The provincial government of Northern Samar will declare a state of calamity across the province to fast-track the recovery efforts in towns affected by Typhoon Tisoy. In an initial report by the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, or PDRRMO, the damages to agriculture and infrastructure in Northern Samar reached 70 million pesos. 12 towns have submitted their partial cost of damages. 11 municipalities have yet to submit their reports. All roads to and fro Catarman are all passable.
Transportation means are already working. Open na yung Allen, Sorsogon mode of transportation. Yung airplane, nakalapag na kaninang mga 8:30. All mode of transportation is already available for help ng mga babayan natin.
Meanwhile, Romeo Cabi and his family are just some of the more than 2,000 families that were left homeless after the onslaught of the Typhoon Tisoy. Over 10,000 houses were partially damaged.
Nanawagan akong tamam na mabuligan man kami sa dagmit nga panahon kay waragod kami. Kuha na yan, di kay maharam kung maganaano kami sini kay pangayagda na mo, dinala para kami matugunan.
Meanwhile, communication lines are gradually returning in Northern Samar. Janelyn Gakit Valles, UNTV News and Rescue, Catarman, Northern Samar.
Residents of Manila City's coastlines return home after staying at an evacuation center prepared for when Typhoon Tisoy hit Metro Manila. Here's why from Asher Kadapan Jr.
About 1,700 individuals residing along the coastline of the city of Manila have been imposed with the preemptive evacuation since 2 days ago as part of the city government's preparation for Typhoon Tisoy. But after the downpour and wind gusts subsided last night, most of the evacuees already went home. Although some 400 residents decided to stay for another night at Del Pan Evacuation Center, according to the Manila Department of Social Welfare, or MDSW.
Nanigurado lang po kami. Baka, sabi ko ng kapitan namin, baka lumakas yung alon at saka hangin. Kaya hindi po kami.
But local government personnel encountered some problems in the evacuation center.
Kasi kahit anong saway namin na wag ikalat yung basura, pilit pa rin lang tinatapon kung saan-saan yung mga basurang pinagkainan din naman nila. Tapos po yung paggamit din po nila ng CR, ayun, nagbara-bara kasi ang paggamit nila yung mga basura nila tinatapon mismo sa loob ng bowl.
As it is already safe to go back to their seaside dwellings, the remaining evacuees who were advised to leave the evacuation center this morning packed up and returned home. Barangay officials have been tasked to assist the residents affected by Typhoon Tisoy. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, City of Manila.
Most parts of Romblon and Mindoro provinces are still in darkness following severe tropical storm Tisoy's devastation. Officials are losing contact with residents in some towns as communication lines are yet to be restored. Sherwin Kulabong reports.
In Romblon, most parts of the province still has no power supply as electric companies are still erecting power lines overturned by the destructive winds and rains of Typhoon Tisoy. At Poktoy Port, a ramp was totally damaged by the storm.
Nagkataon pa sir, high tide. So pagka high tide, talagang malaki yan yung alo na pumapasok. Kaya yung siguro yung dahilan na nasira yung rampa ng yung rampahan.
Authorities in the province are working round the clock to restore the communication lines across the province.
Bag down po talaga, pati yung communication nila. Wala talaga po, hindi po namin ma-reach na wala po kami talagang basihan kung paano namin mapuntahan yung lugar. Wala pang biyahe as of now. Hindi kami makapag-communicate to ask them ano bang problema. Pero I believe sir, talagang ang daming damages nila. Sa ngayon, ito sana mabigyan din yung pagtulong dito sa TISOY'S, saka sa Romblon, at saka magdiwan sir.
Meanwhile, at least 5 people died in Oriental Mindoro and Marinduque after the lashing of Typhoon Tisoy yesterday. 3 of the victims died after they were hit by fallen tree, while 2 died from heart attack. A state of calamity has been declared in Calapan, Oriental Mindoro after most parts of the city was submerged in floodwater. A state of calamity will allow the local government to tap emergency funds. Road clearing operations are underway. Some 19,000 individuals who fled their homes in Oriental Mindoro and 7,880 persons evacuated in Occidental Mindoro have begun returning to their homes.
Sa ngayon siguro mag-uwian na yung ibang galing sa barangay Nabotas at barangay Maidlang. Pero yung nasa mga malapit lang sa evacuation center, ang alam ko nakauwi na. Particular yung barangay Lazareto.
Authorities in Romblon and Mindoro are still assessing the total damages to infrastructure and agriculture in the provinces. Sherwin Kulubong, UNTV News and Rescue.
It's business as usual again at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA after a 12-hour closure due to the inclement weather brought about by now severe tropical storm Tisoy. The country's premier gateway was temporarily closed from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Tuesday, which led to cancellations on several international and domestic flights. Manila International Airport Authority or NAIA General Manager Ed Monreal reiterates his call on affected passengers to coordinate with their respective airline carriers for rebooking or refunding of tickets. Unless flight changes are properly coordinated, passengers are advised not to proceed to NAIA to avoid congestion in terminals and to minimize the volume of stranded passengers at the airport.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I am William Theo and here are the headlines. The Department of National Defense and Department of Energy look into China's alleged capacity to shut down the country's power grid. President Rodrigo Duterte formally recognizes new Chinese ambassador to the Philippines. President Duterte threatens economic sabotage raps against water firms over erroneous deals. Health authorities warn against the use and purchase of unregistered medical devices online.
Dinigit mo ako! Ikaw ang bastos ka! Ikaw nang digit! Bastos ka! Dinigit mo ako!
And a doctor on a viral road rage video may lose his driver's license according to the Philippine National Police Highway Patrol Group. Good evening. The Philippine National Police Highway Patrol Group warns that the use of threatening and provocative words on the road may prompt the suspension of a motorist driver's license. Leia Ilagan reports.
Dinigit mo ako! Ikaw ang bastos ka! Ikaw nang digit! Bastos ka! Dinigit mo ako!
the road rage initiated by a male doctor as seen on the viral video is not proper, according to the Philippine National Police. The video shows a man outside an L300 van swearing in a loud voice to a face of a van's driver and a lady companion inside the vehicle. According to the Chief of the Highway Patrol Group National Capital Region, Police Lieutenant Colonel Wilson Doromal, such act is not of a responsible driver. It could also lead to the suspension of a motorist driver's license.
Pag may nag-complain po sa amin, yan, profile lang po natin. Tapos sinasamahan po natin sila sa LTO para kung yung deep ng ano nila ng violation yun. Nire-request natin na mabigyan ng warning o mapa-explain para ano naman may chance pa sila magbago.
Doromal advises motorists to bring extra patience every time they drive, especially with a bumper-to-bumper road situation. Road rage must be avoided as this often leads to unfavorable incidents. The best thing to do, Doromal says, is to get the vehicle's plate number and report the incident to the HPG for them to summon the involved motorist.
Dapat makuha niya yung identity ng yung suspect. Kung nakasasakyan, makuha niya yung plate number, ma-videoan niya yung mukha ng yun ang aaway sa kanila para pag nagdumulong sila sa kapulisan, madali po namin kung pwede natin sampahan ng kaso o mahuli.
St. Luke's Medical Center has released a statement saying the man is not a resident doctor in their institution but used to be an ENT resident trainee before. He is also not connected with any St. Luke's Medical Center. Meanwhile, the PNP Firearms and Explosives Office has no record of the man's license to own and possess firearms nor a firearms registration. The Land Transportation Office for each part has summoned the supposed doctor for a hearing on a use of profanity towards the L300 driver as seen on the video. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Krame.
President Rodrigo Duterte has sworn to file an economic sabotage case against those behind allegedly onerous contracts entered into by the government and water concessionaires. Manila Water responds to the chief executive's call. Mai Bermudez will tell us why.
Ito, ipapile ko to. Economic sabotage, and I will arrest them. Lahat silang mga patikim ko sila paano ang buhay ng preso. Kung pati ako isasali nila, sasali ako doon sa prisuhan.
This was the threat of President Duterte against those behind the onerous and questionable contracts entered into by the government and to water concessionaires Maynilad and Manila Water. The chief executive claims water distributors have extracted wealth through contracts which require their customers to pay excessively.
Ang ating tubig ginawang negosyo ng mga tao dito sa Pilipinas. Ang ngayon, ang inabutan natin ang may-ari na ngayon, Manila Gas, Maynilad, si Ayala, pati si Pangilinan. We are being milked by billions and pinapabayad pa tayo ng mga fines and penalties.
On the other hand, Manila Water says in defense, it fulfills its obligations to better water and wastewater services. Manila Water was among the local and international corporations which have responded to the government's call to end water crisis during the time of former President Fidel V. Ramos. It also offered lowest water rates as concessionaire of Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System or MWSS. President Duterte disagrees with the extension of the deal after Manila Water won in the Permanent Court of Arbitration
Corporation or PCA, which obligated the government to pay 7.4 billion pesos when it refused to allow increase in water rates in 2015. The contract is set to expire in 2022 but was stretched until 2037 during the time of then-President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Manila Water says the arbitral award was in response to the violations of the officials of the past administration and not the Duterte administration. The chief executive has ordered several cabinet members to craft a new contract in favor of the public.
Sabi ko kay Dominguez pati kay Calida, craft a new contract that is really favorable to public, to government. Bigay mo sa kanila, this is the amended contract. Accept it or nothing doing.
Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara says, upon the directives of the President, the Justice Department reviewed the deal between water concessionaires and the MWSS, in which violations to certain provisions. Such violations were found to be disadvantageous to the government and the public. Maynilad has yet to respond to the issue. May Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue.
Meanwhile, the Department of National Defense has recommended to President Rodrigo Duterte not to extend the martial law implementation in Mindanao. Dante Amento tells us why.
On December 31, 2019, the martial law implementation in Mindanao will be terminated after it was extended 3 times. Department of National Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana confirms he recommended the non-extension of the martial rule to President Rodrigo Duterte today. Lorenzana adds they have accomplished the primary purpose of the martial law declaration, and that is to bring back peace and order in the region.
Recommending the non-extension of martial law in Mindanao. The whole of Mindanao, no selective martial law. Because I was assured by our armed forces and the police, the PNP, that we have already accomplished what we wait to do with martial law.
Lorenzana does not favor the idea of a selective martial law extension in some areas like Sulu. They have already controlled the capabilities of the communist groups and local terrorist groups in Mindanao like the Abu Sayyaf bandits. Lorenzana believes the martial law termination will help encourage foreign investors to enter Mindanao.
We believe that they can maintain the peace and order, or they can improve it further to make it a little bit peaceful, more peaceful, without martial law. And I believe there are so much concern from other countries.
At the moment, Malacanang has no comment on the matter. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue, Makati City.
President Rodrigo Duterte formally recognizes new Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Wang Xilian. The new Chinese diplomat promises to further enhance the two countries' bilateral ties. Rosalie Cos details why.
New Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Wang Xilian, presented to President Rodrigo Duterte his letter of credence in Malacanang this evening. This formally begins his tour of duty as China's new diplomat in the Philippines. He arrived in Manila yesterday and paid courtesy call to Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. Before his new designation, longtime diplomat Wang was the Chinese ambassador to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. According to Wang, he will further enhance the bilateral relations and cooperation between the two countries and will ensure the agreements signed between the Philippines and China will be fulfilled. Wang replaces former Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Xiao Jianhua. Xiao ended his 5-year tour of duty as Chinese ambassador to the Philippines in October. During his term, the bilateral relations of the Philippines and China made a complete turnaround. The close ties between the administrations of President Duterte and Chinese President Xi Jinping have been established. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue.
In other news, the Department of National Defense and the Department of Energy will launch a joint investigation into the allegations on China's stake in the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. Some senators are worried that China could shut down the power grid at any time. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Department of National Defense together with the Department of Energy are creating a team. This is to investigate allegations, particularly those made by some senators, that the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines or NGCP is being controlled by China.
To prove or disprove the allegations of others that China can shut down our grid anytime they want. Although the NGCP has so strongly denied that allegation.
The NGCP administers the transmission lines or power distributions in various parts of the country. Senator Ralph Rector has recently said he was alarmed after discovering the 40% stake of the NGCP is owned by a state grid of China. Other senators believe it is a threat not just to our power supply but to our national security. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says the Department of Energy has already started its assessment and inspection on the NGCP. Lorenzana adds a thorough investigation must be done to clarify the issue.
Our experts to see that they cannot do it. So we are going to assess or inspect the NGCP in these coming days.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue, Makati City.
The Department of Health and the Food and Drug Administration warned the public against the purchase and use of unregistered medical devices for sale online. The warning includes the use of vape. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
With just a few clicks, you can buy almost anything you need online. However, the Philippines Department of Health and Food and Drug Administration warned the public not to patronize unregistered medical devices sold via the internet. Examples of this are wound dressing and gauze without certificate of product registration or CPR from the FDA. A public health warning has been issued by the FDA against the purchase of such unregistered medical supplies. Pursuant to FDA Act of 2009, the manufacture, importation, exportation, sale, offering for sale, distribution, transfer, non-consumer use, promotion, advertising, or sponsorship of health products without proper authorization is prohibited. The FDA warns it is not safe to use products which did not undergo due evaluation process, as the agency cannot guarantee their quality and safety. The FDA assures violators will face regulatory actions and sanctions. The DOH meanwhile reminds the public to purchase medical devices and medicines only from legitimate suppliers or pharmacies.
Pharmacies should get license for online ordering so people can order medicines from them online, pero it's for pick-up and not for delivery.
The DOH also warns against the use of vapes or e-cigarettes. Vapes have chemical contents harmful to one's health based on expert studies.
What the DOH and FDA is doing is that kung sa tingin namin ay may apekto ito at makakaapekto sa health ng ating mga kababayan, we need to step and look into the protection of our people. So, kung may chemicals na involved dito po sa vape, may mga chemicals po dito sa vape na ito. And naglabas na ho kami na kami dinediscourage namin ang vaping.
Vape and vape sets are included in the FDA's public warning. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Dagupan, Pangasinan.
And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. reporting live from Hong Kong. Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening, William. Evidence for impeaching U.S. President Donald Trump for misconduct in office is overwhelming, according to the panel leading the impeachment inquiry. Beverly Saison reports.
The Intelligence Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives said that its impeachment probe of President Donald Trump uncovered overwhelming evidence that the occupant of the White House has engaged in misconduct. The Democratic-led panel said in its 300-page report that the evidence of the president's misconduct is overwhelming, and so too is the evidence of his obstruction of Congress. The members of the committee, including Trump's Republican allies, are due to vote on whether to accept the report and forward it to the House Judiciary Committee as the basis for drafting articles of impeachment against the president. Trump, according to the document, withheld military aid from Ukraine to pressure that country's President Volodymyr Zelensky into launching an investigation of 2020 Democratic presidential frontrunner Joe Biden and his son Hunter.
But we do know this without any doubt, and that is the President of the United States solicited foreign interference in our election and used the power of his office, the power to convene a meeting in the Oval Office, the power to provide or withhold hundreds of millions of dollars of aid to an ally at war to get his political dirty work done.
The Intelligence Committee report describes a drastic increase in pressure on Ukraine during the period between the July 25th telephone call in which Trump asked Zelensky to investigate the Bidens and the public revelations about that conversation due to the whistleblower complaint filed by a U.S. government official.
The only question is how more extensive was the scheme, how many others may have been involved, what was the full knowledge and participation of other parties. And while we intend to get the answers to those questions and let the American people know the full facts, we do not intend to delay when the integrity of the next election is still at risk.
Trump denies that delaying the nearly $400 million in eventually disbursed aid to Ukraine or his reluctance to invite Zelensky to the White House had anything to do with a desire that Kiev announce an investigation of the Bidens. But the report concludes that Trump did seek to extract such a commitment from Zelensky and that in doing so, he placed his own personal and political interests above the national interests of the United States. The text goes on to accuse the president of orchestrating an unprecedented effort to obstruct the impeachment probe. Beverly Sison, UNTV News and Rescue.
Democratic White House hopeful Kamala Harris is dropping out of the presidential race. The California senator's campaign seemed full of promise when it launched in January, but she struggled to make headway in the crowded field. In November, her cash-strapped operation laid off staff at its Baltimore HQ in New Hampshire and her home state. The 55-year-old, a fierce critic of President Donald Trump, was once seen as a rising star within the party, but she could not cement her fleeting position in the top tier of candidates alongside Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. The government of Samoa announced that it will suspend all business activity for 2 days to conduct a door-to-door vaccination campaign against measles across the country. Meanwhile, at least 23 people died and 130 others were injured in an explosion and fire at a ceramic factory in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. Kathy Maraos details this report.
In Sudan, a blast hit a ceramic factory in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, when a fuel tanker was unloading gas at the tile manufacturing facility. At least 23 people died and 130 others were injured in an explosion. The Central Committee of Sudan doctors urged health workers on social media to help the victims. Khartoum State Police said the injured have been taken to 5 hospitals in the cities of Khartoum, North Khartoum, and Omdurman. Workers in adjacent factories were evacuated as black smoke and flames rose into the sky, causing panic in the industrial zone, according to the police. The government statement said an investigation has been launched into the blast to avoid such incidents in the future and send condolences to the families of the victims. In Samoa, the government of Samoa will conduct door-to-door vaccination campaign across the country on December 5 to 6 against measles, which since October has killed 60 people, 52 of them under the age of 4. In the South Pacific nation, which has a population of less than 200,000, 4,052 cases of measles have been recorded since the beginning of the outbreak, 171 of which were recorded in the last 24 hours. In response to the epidemic, which led to the declaration of a state of emergency in November, the authorities will stop all business activity in the country for the next 2 days from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. to immunize the population. During the campaign, vehicle movement will also be restricted except for those in the public sector, security forces, or medical fields, while travel between the 2 main islands of the country, Upolu and Savai'i, will be suspended and the population urged to remain at home. And in the USA, The founder of Huawei says the Chinese tech giant is moving its U.S. research center to Canada due to American sanctions on the company. In an interview with the Globe and Mail, Ren Zhangfei said the move was necessary because Huawei would be blocked from interacting with U.S. employees. Huawei Technologies Limited is the #2 global smartphone brand and the biggest maker of network gear for phone carriers. U.S. authorities have said that the company is a security risk, which Huawei denies, and announced curbs in May on its access to U.S. components and technology. Canada has yet to decide whether it will ban Huawei from supplying equipment to the coming 5G wireless network that telecommunication companies are planning. Kat Lumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Meanwhile, the Philippines continues to dominate in the 30th Southeast Asian Games as the country's medal tally reaches the 100th mark. As of 5 p.m., the Philippines garnered a total of 109 medals, 54 gold, 36 silver, and 19 bronzes. Ranking in second place is Vietnam with a total of 79 medals. They collected 23 gold medals, 29 silver, and 27 bronze. Meanwhile, Malaysia is in third place in the overall medal tally with 48 medals, 20 gold, 9 silver, and 19 bronze. Countries will wear the design of a renowned Filipina-American designer in the upcoming Miss Universe 2019 pageant in Atlanta, Georgia. Her style and design may be conservative, but can also be considered versatile, unique, and sophisticated. Ruth De Mesa reports.
Not only one, but 5 Miss Universe 2019 contestants will have the pride to don the creations of renowned Filipino-American designer Kirsten Regalado. For many years, Kirsten has played an important part in dressing Miss Universe candidates in one-of-a-kind evening gowns and national costumes.
I'm pretty excited because Miss Bahamas is the first one that came here and we welcomed her to our family. Next week, Miss St. Lucia is coming, Universe. We have Miss Iceland. Miss Iceland national costume is already done, but we're just going to do the fitting next week. And then the last one that's going to be here will be Miss. It's going to be exciting. Thank you so much. It's all about the love and support.
The Miami, Florida-based originator started designing for Miss Universe candidates in 2014. Since then, more and more beauty queens chose her to design their gowns.
Again, I knew that we were kindred spirits because the things that she gave me to try on, I absolutely loved. And there's nothing like a good sense of style, a good eye for fashion, and I think that's where we connect.
Kirsten, a true global visionary, shares that nature is her inspiration in creating unique styles for her local and international clientele.
Because I'm a conservative designer. I just want to make sure that my goal is just, for a delegate to look beautiful on the stage, represent the country, promote their tourism, definitely.
Among Kirsten's future plans is opening a museum for Miss Universe in Miami. Her dreams include employing some old people for them to have livelihood. She also wants to put up a fashion school for young people who dreams of following her footsteps. When asked if she plans on dressing up more Miss Universe candidates in coming years, she said,
Yeah, God willing, if we're gonna have more countries, why not? We're gonna accept them. They're all our international friends, so it's a yes.
The Miss Universe 2019 Coronation Night will air live from Tyler Perry's studios in Atlanta, Georgia on Sunday, December 8th here in the US. And that's December 9th, Monday morning, Manila time. Ruth De Mesa, UNTV News and Rescue, Florida, USA.
And those are the reasons behind the news this December 4, 2019. On behalf of Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant soundbites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Pag may nag-complain po sa amin, yan, profile lang po natin. Tapos sinasamahan po natin sila sa LTO para kung yung deep ng violation yun, nire-request natin na mabigyan ng warning o mapa-explain para may chance pa sila magbago.
Ito ipapile ko to. Economic sabotage, and I will arrest them. Lahat silang mga patikim ko sila paano ang buhay ng preso. Kung pati ako isasali nila, sasali ako doon sa prisuhan.
Recommending the non-extension of martial law in Mindanao. The whole of Mindanao, no selective martial law. Because I was assured by our armed forces and the police, the PNP, that we have already accomplished what we wait to do with martial law. To prove or disprove the allegations of others that China can shut down our grid anytime they want. Although the NGCP has so strongly denied that allegation.